Hello and welcome to Justice for All's Connections with Coffee. I'm Joel DeWitt, Executive Director at Justice for All. I have Travis Remme here with me, who's a pastor at Good News. What's the name of the church now?
The Rock Community Church.
The Rock Community Church.
Yeah.
Formerly the Methodist Church here in Rock Rapids. We're at Rosie's Coffee Boutique out on the corner here. So appreciate Rosie's letting us film here and take over a little section of this place. But Justice for All's Connection with Coffee. We're here to just explain a little bit about how we have a connection, both personally and through your church and Justice for All a little bit, and just to hear kind of about what's going on at your church. So Travis, maybe if you could just give a little bit about maybe where you grew up and some background on how you kind of got into ministry and pastoralship a little bit.
Sure.
And then from there, I guess I'd like to go over at some point how you got to the name of the Rock Community Church and that sort of thing. So kind of take over a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, thank you, Joel, and thanks for having me on your podcast here. This is really cool and exciting, and
I'm real excited for it.
Yeah.
I like talking.
I can tell.
I like talking.
I like to talk too. Pastors usually do.
It's in the job description.
It is in the job description for sure. So that was a big question, and I have a tendency to go all over the place. So get me back on track if I need to be.
Sure.
I grew up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Have you heard of Sioux Falls?
I have.
Okay,
yeah.
very good. That's a great start.
It's around here, I think.
It's near.
Yep.
It's a little bit bigger than Rock Rapids. And my wife, who I've been married to for 13 and a half years, thought it would be a good idea to drag me out to Northwest Iowa at the end of 2011. And, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into at the time.
Yeah.
Life is different out here.
It's a big city in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Sioux Falls
exactly.
it's a big city.
It's big enough. Now it's really big, but even in 2011, it was big enough that it was quite the shock coming out here. So
Sure.
we came out here at the end of 2011, and not for ministry. I was not in ministry at the time. In fact, I only was saved at a church in Sioux Falls in 2009.
Okay.
So I'd only been a Christian for a couple of years at that point in my life. I did not grow up necessarily going to church.
Did you have any concept of Creator, God, those sort of general things before this? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, good question.
I don't talk to a ton of, I would say, young believers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 15 years.
For sure, 15 years. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So, was there any sort of concept of that, like when you were growing up, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say yes, definitely. I did have some church. I went to a Lutheran church,
Okay.
Our Savior's. It's still a very vibrant church in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
And I was confirmed there, and we went on Christmas and Easter and pretended like we were sleeping in the morning, so my mom didn't wake us up for church.
Oh yeah.
The one time, so it's not that church. It just wasn't a priority in my home.
Okay.
And it didn't really mean anything to me, and I was just going through the motions, even as a kid. But yet at the same time, I always felt like there was something more to life, something more going on. So I guess there was a little bit of a concept of a creator.
Yeah.
Without
any name to it. It was more of a feeling, possibly.
Yeah, it was a feeling. Yeah,
sure.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
All right. So 2009.
Yeah.
Jesus Saves.
Correct.
2011, you moved here, or you got married and then moved here? Is that
married in 2010,
Okay.
and moved here the next year.
All right.
When we were expecting our first.
All right.
Yeah. So we've got 3 kids, and we've lived here since 2011. And I think there's a lot of pastors that would say this, but like if you would have told me 10 years, or even then when I moved here in 2011, that you were going to be a pastor, I'd have been like, bro, that is literally the funniest thing I've ever heard. And that's so true with my life. I mean, I'd only been a Christian for a couple of years. I was dabbling in the Bible at that time, and there was some difficulties that I was facing in life and looking for help. And luckily, I was starting to look in the right places.
For sure.
Starting to seek God for the first time in my life, and that was just amazing how it all worked out. But when I really got, focusing on your question here, really got thrown into ministry, to use that word, I guess, called into ministry, but it felt like I was being thrown into ministry. In 2018, our 3rd child was born.
Okay.
And pregnancy was perfect. No reason to worry because our first two were perfect. And my wife was full term. And to make a long story short, and feel free if you have any questions, but after she was alive for 10 hours with no complications, prior to childbirth, she passed away. So it was just a really, really, really difficult situation to be thrown into without any, we weren't aware of anything that was going to happen. Yes. And I remember being in the waiting room because she had to have some surgery while she was fighting for her life.
Yeah.
I had never prayed out loud in my entire life.
For real?
I don't even think alone I hadn't. But I just felt this urge to pray as I was the one. I mean, I'm her dad, probably not the first one that would be the one. Usually there'd be somebody that'd be praying for you. I don't know when I just think about that situation, especially when I had never prayed out loud before, but I remember my wife was there and we had some family members there and we didn't know what to do. And I just started praying out loud. And I don't know if that has anything to do with my call to ministry, but it was just really strange looking back at it, how God was working through that extremely difficult and traumatic moment in my life, and that was the first time that I ever prayed out loud. And
that is a memorable one, but that would be incredibly difficult. I can't even imagine. Like, I just knew
I had to do something, and I didn't know what to do. So I guess in my own way, even though I didn't necessarily know what I was doing, I leaned into God right at that moment. I mean, I know we got deep super fast here, but it's part of my ministry call.
Dude, that's if we're going in, let's go in all the way, right?
Let's go in the deep end.
Like, because we've known each other for a little while.
Yeah,
a few years.
I was gonna say
5-ish.
5.
Yeah-ish.
Uh-huh.
And I knew that you had lost your daughter.
Yeah.
But you'd never told me that story before.
Yeah, I guess I never probably have. Yeah.
No.
But that's absolutely part of it. And it wasn't like the next day I knew I was going to be a pastor or anything. But that was looking back at that moment and realizing after she passed away that there wasn't anything that I could do to bring her back. So. I don't remember any exact moment or anything, but basically I had already been working through some of my faith journey for a few years at that point because we moved here in 11. This is 18. So just kind of
you've lived here for 7. We
were already living here for 7 years. So for just to make sure viewers are catching that, this was 7 years after we moved here. And just basically giving it to God, that if you help me get through this situation, God, I will serve you for the rest of my life. And I don't remember actually saying that, but I just had this feeling. And Jessica and I, and she's very open about it. We weren't in the best place before this all happened, so I just was kind of really trusting that God was going to get me through that. Yeah. And over the next year and a half, I just felt called into ministry. And again, there's a lot there that I could unpack, but that certainly was where things started.
I think that's the most. That's got to be the most impactful thing is just to have when I look at the timeline, you became a Christian in 2009, and you had never prayed out loud until that day.
Not that I can recall. Okay. I had spent some time in prayer.
Sure.
Learning how to
in your mind, thinking about stuff.
Nope.
But
because sometime around that time, I was also part of a Bible study at Faith Baptist Church with Pastor Jeff Poppinga, who's a great mentor of mine, by the way. He had me pray one time for that group, and I think I passed or told him I didn't want to or I wasn't comfortable yet. Wow. So maybe I had some thoughts about it, but I hadn't actually done it.
There's definitely something to saying something out loud. I had an experience. Okay, so. I did not in the kid side of things, but on the side of praying out loud. Yeah. This year, Ash Wednesday.
Yes.
Right. So Ash Wednesday was on Valentine's Day, and so our church had a thing where you could go into the little, I don't know, whatever it is, right off of the door. They have a little room where you can breathe, a quiet room, whatever. Yes. But they said they were going to have some ashes there, and you could do whatever, and administer ashes to yourself. There wasn't anybody there, but be able to, become more in touch with Lent and how things are beginning on Ash Wednesday. So before I went out to Rock Valley, I stopped there and I felt the urge to pray out loud. That's a real thing. It had not been some time. I've prayed out loud before. That's not that, but it was just I felt like it was hey, you need to pray out loud, and people that I started praying about just had been put on my heart, and I used a little kneeling thing, and it was just I felt like I had to go do that. I couldn't ignore the Spirit telling me to do those things, and I don't know why.
Well, but that's really cool, and I think the thing that I can hear from you saying that, telling me that story, is you were in tune with the Spirit, and I think we all, as believers, as Christians, have those God moments, if you will, every day. And
absolutely.
I don't think people are intentionally ignoring them, but I think they miss them. So just hearing that, I would say so. You were in tune and you were intentional about the Spirit, and that's really awesome. And I guess in a way, that's probably what I was doing the night my daughter passed away too.
Yeah.
And of course, I was probably more in tune. Gosh. There's something really difficult going on.
Dude, I can't even, like you saying the words, I can't even imagine that situation. Like, it's just heartbreaking to hear it, man. And I'm sorry that it happened.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot. It's been 6.5 years now, not quite, a little over 6 years. January of 2018. And, there's not a day that goes by that we don't think about her. And there's a lot of what ifs, It's hard not to, she's in kindergarten right now. And so that's a whole nother, and not to tell you what to do, but maybe episode 23, you should have Jessica on for the Oakland Foundation, because she'd have a whole different perspective. But just the blessings that have come into our life through her the loss of our daughter. Seeing her legacy, she was here for 10 hours, but God doesn't measure time the way that we do. So at the impact of her legacy, my wife's got a foundation now. I'm in ministry. Just our marriage has been blessed. Our family has been blessed. And like all that through, God can make beauty from our ashes. And I don't want to get too like pastorly here on you. I'm not trying to do that.
You are a pastor.
But I am a pastor, right? And it's true. Yes. So here we are. Really. And it is I'm not a very emotional dude, but like when I look back at that, I'm like, man, that's the kind of stuff that will like choke me up. Like, she's totally with us every day. Like
I would think so. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people try not to get too caught up into emotions, and a lot of people are distracted by things, and maybe that's part of, when you talk about trying to be in tune with the Spirit and being in tune with the Holy Spirit is kind of how I see it, and what God's telling me through that. Like, if you're looking at something, if you're distracted by something and moving from busy to something in front of your face, to not have any quiet time to try to listen or feel that, that can be challenging. I bet, I was thinking when you were mentioning about being married not for too long when that happened, but I would imagine that would probably cause a marriage to go the way it went for you in becoming closer, or the complete other way.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't really just be, we're okay.
Not a lot of middle ground there.
It's either we cannot get together and be in touch on the same thing anymore, or we're so close we'll never be apart.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's funny that you're, interesting that you say it that way, because afterwards, and I even said that to Jessica maybe a week or two later, or maybe the next day, I don't remember, but when you've gone through something that difficult with your spouse, there is two ways to handle it, but the way I saw her that night when our daughter passed away, like, I'm the only one that saw that. I'm the only one that would understand. She's the only one that would understand. Like, we experienced that really, really traumatic, terrible event together. And, like, I just couldn't imagine. I don't know, it sounds maybe a little bit, I don't know. I'm not sure what it sounds like, but, like, I couldn't imagine doing life with anybody else after going through that. Yeah. But it doesn't always work out that way. No. Because she talks about it all the time. The divorce rate this is going to be a guess, but it's over 80% for couples, or somewhere in that neighborhood, for couples that have experienced the loss of a child. Yes, because that's one of her speaking points all the time. Sure. So we feel that we praise God for that every day. Yeah. Absolutely. And we are, again, I'm not sure. Like, success story sounds weird, but like because your life's ongoing, a God story. Like, because I know, but it is a success story. But like, your life isn't stopping after today. Life will continue on. Yeah, exactly. But it's a development of success. Yeah, it's a choice. It's a daily, weekly choice. It doesn't just happen. It didn't just happen. It doesn't just happen. Yeah, there was still that moment of relying on God, and I mean, she had her own moment of that too. But we went through that together, and when you experience something together, nobody else understands exactly what that was like. So yeah. Well, I'm trying to think where we were before that little. Yeah, so that was my call to ministry story. So, right. Yeah. Sorry about that. I kind of knew that might happen. So okay. So then after that, I'll try to make the rest of it quick. So we got time. I also was very interested in. Before that, I was dabbling, if you will, into making sure I was being the best version of myself that I could be. Okay. Maybe in kind of a secular way, possibly, but I was looking for a business opportunity or a better job or something else for my life too. So I guess my mind was open to just whatever at that point. Mm-hmm. So what I'm getting with this is that there was a presentation around this time. I think it was right after. I don't remember the exact time frame, but there was a presentation for the Sioux Falls Seminary. Okay. And by a well-known business owner in Sioux Falls. I still remember the presentation. And at that time, I remember my mind's open. I'm thinking of other things. And this is just a reminder for everybody, like never stop thinking about what might be next or being open to opportunities. But I was already thinking, and I was already being nudged maybe into ministry or my Christian journey or whatever. This might have been before Oakland passed away. Not sure. But a presentation for the Sioux Falls Seminary. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. I need to get my master's. I need to finish school. I need to finish what I started. And like, that's kind of how this, so it was really weird how it all came together. And so I ended up, again, I don't remember the exact order of things here, but ended up enrolling in the Sioux Falls Seminary. Still wasn't necessarily planning on becoming a pastor because I had a home care agency, still do, visiting angels. And if anything, I was going to the seminary. Now, I know this is two separate things. So we had the loss of our daughter, and then we also had me going to seminary. They are related, but not directly. And then it was just going to be better adapted to handle the families that I had to deal with visiting angels and stuff like that. So anyway, started doing that. Church that we were going to at the time, the pastor there asked me if I was comfortable. Word had gotten out that I pray out loud, I guess. And
you got that word out there. That's the first time you've ever told me, and we've known each other for 5 years.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, I'm a pastor, so we pray out loud at the Rock. I don't know what you guys do at your church. Right, so anyway, he was coming from a different church. He had a 2-point charge, and he asked me if I would open the service, and so this goes back to the whole opportunity thing, and you never say no to an opportunity. I knew that at that point, so I was like, this sounds kind of scary and nerve-wracking, but sure, I will do it. You betcha. This was kind of a small church, 40 people. I'm like, well, some of them are family. I'm like, I can handle it. I can do this. So I started opening a couple of those services, and then shortly after that, we were asked to give a little testimony about Oakland, and I did that, and kind of heard I feel like you missed your call into ministry. I feel like you are called to be a pastor. And it was more than just like hey, good job, like I feel like the people really meant this. So again, these are 3 separate things now, but putting it all together, hopefully the listener can start to see where Pastor Travis was called into ministry. And it's back to what you just got done saying, is being in tune with the Spirit. It didn't just happen. It's not like the church just came and knocked on my door and said, we'd like you to
pray out loud. You come and pray out loud at our place. Sure.
God was working through all of it, and we have to be aware of how God's working in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop there because this is a long story. That's pretty much the end of it. There is one more piece, but yeah.
How long does that take?
Well, okay, so we
got 3 things, right? We have your daughter.
We've got my daughter. I started at seminary. And now I'm a graduate of Kairos University, which is a great place. And also the third thing of beginning to start speaking, filling in at churches, stuff like that. And we were sharing Oakland's story a couple times, and I think people just thought it was remarkable that we were willing to do that over such a difficult thing.
For sure.
And somebody had heard that we were doing that, and we had the first ever Oakland Foundation Beauty and Babes event, and somebody from the Rock Church, which was Rock Rapids United Methodist at the time, was attending and saw I gave a little talk and prayed. And it went longer than it was supposed to, and I got reprimanded by Jessica for doing that. But she saw me, and she says, "Hey, our church is looking for a pastor. Would you ever be interested in that?" And I was like, no, definitely not. Like, I'm cool just filling in, and I have a business. So how could I do that?
For sure.
Be careful the ways that you question God, I guess, because it was just a few short months later that there I was, the pastor at that church. So again, trying to give you the short version here, but
that's fine.
So that was somebody else.
Those are
acting on their four separate things, and that was also somebody else acting on their faith too.
Yeah.
So
no, that's good. All right. So how then? So we got through the deep of how you got into ministry and how you got called, I guess, to the Rock. How long have you been there? That's a better question. So how long have you been there?
So once I did get called into ministry, I was serving a couple of churches part-time in Sioux City for about 6 months. And then I've been at the Rock, which was Rock Rapids United Methodist, since July of 2020. So close to 4 years now.
Just about.
Yeah, and we've been the Rock since December 1st of 23, so just a few months.
So how did you get to be that? How did that name get to be chosen?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the United Methodist Church has been going through a lot, and our congregation voted to disaffiliate from the denomination.
So not Methodist anymore.
Yeah, so we're not Methodist anymore, although we still have our Wesleyan and Methodist roots. We've tried to keep a lot of things the same because people have called that place home for worship for a long time.
Yeah.
And so the name The Rock. That's a good question. A long time ago in context of my 4 years, a year and a half ago or so, I told them that I thought, or at a council meeting or something, we had the idea of putting on the sign outside a church with the foundation built on the rock or something like that. So that was on our sign out front. It was less complicated than that, a simpler version of what I just said. And I think we just, we liked that. We embraced that saying that, the rock is our foundation, and Rock Rapids, we didn't want the Rock River. Everything around here is Rock River. So we thought the Rock. We ain't talking about Rock Rapids. We ain't talking about Rock County. We're talking about the Rock.
This place rocks. This place is pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, that's not.
Yeah. Well, not exactly. Or the Hard Rock.
That was lame. I'm sorry. That was lame.
Yeah.
It was better. It could have been better.
It was,
in my mind,
it was
better until I started singing it. And I was like, shouldn't do this, but we're gonna do it anyway. We're already committed.
Once you're committed, there's no turning back. So
I thought maybe we're just big fans of Peter. You're like, hey, Peter.
Yeah. Peter. Yes.
The Rock.
Well,
right? That's in a book.
That is in a book. Yes, absolutely.
The Bible, probably.
That's in a very important book.
So did you have a committee? You didn't have a committee come up with the name somehow?
Yeah, we kind of did.
Or like pass names around. Hey, everyone.
Not really. It was just kind of. I don't remember, I don't think we did. I think everybody just loved it because, again, this is 100%. Rock Rapids. This is, we got a lot of rocks around here.
The rocks ring true.
And, the whole symbolism between God and Him being the rock of our lives, I think was just too much to ignore.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I like the name. I drive past that place
a lot.
Thank you. I live right down Carroll Street.
Yeah, we like it too. And we can just call it The Rock,
So what then? What about the the vision of the church or the direction of the church? It's fun. Like when I think about connections with coffee and some of that kind of stuff, it's like that's a big ordeal to go through, from being used to be Methodist to now community church to now rock. Like that's a process.
Yeah,
right?
It was a process. Yep.
So you're through that process. What is coming up with the church, or what's going forward? Looking forward. What are you looking at as a congregation?
Well, we're really...
I don't need a 5-year plan with 3 bullet points on things you want to get to. But I'm just thinking, if you went through a lot of hard stuff of, we left the denomination, we renamed ourselves, we have a new identity, sort of, or something.
Yeah. Well, I think we're still stepping into that identity. We don't know exactly where God's leading us, but we're excited about the future. We feel like there's no longer... So this is tough because we certainly weren't in a bad place with the denomination. We just felt like maybe some of their core principles didn't match up with the Rock's principles, and we, just kind of wanted to go... anyway, that's a long, complex thing, and not everybody was happy about it. That's
there's
the thing.
Some nitty-gritty, I'm sure we can get into.
There's nitty-gritty, and not everybody was happy about it. So it's always tough when people are affected, and people were affected, and it was not fun. But we just want to be a church that welcomes all people, and that's my favorite thing right now about leading the church that I lead, The Rock, because there's new life in the church. There's people coming back to the church that have been hurt at church in the past, and we're growing, and we're just really excited about where God is leading us.
One of the things that I get surprised about a little bit is, and I guess I don't know exactly what to expect, but the fact that there are people in this town of Rock Rapids, in the surrounding area, all 2,500 people there are in this town and surrounding area, but everybody, I guess the connotation was that everyone is Christian, but not everybody's Christian.
No, that's right.
Right? You can be, I guess, to some extent, what your story was, we went twice a year ish. I'd like to sleep in, whatever. Didn't really mean much, but I would imagine you might be seeing people who are having it become real for them.
Yes, and oh man, I can't think of. There's lots of rewarding things as a pastor, but that's right up there. I've had a couple specific situations that I can think of recently, where people have looked me in the eye and said, "I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that I would ever willingly go to church," or "I haven't been to church." Or actually, the other situation is telling me the spouse was coming to church, and she said of her spouse, "If you ever see him here, something's going on. Like he's never going to come to church. Well, now he does, and he loves it. Yeah. And he used to, spend his time doing other stuff, but now he's coming to church. And I can't think of anything more awesome than that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is really incredible.
And that's long lasting. Like that's, but that's what I think. In ministry and in life, like those sort of regular things happen. People can just fall away from things, or it's easy to just say, yeah, I'm sure everybody's kind of got it figured out. We're all kind of going through the motions, but we're not.
Yeah.
Everybody's different, and everybody's in their own walk, and everyone's going to be at a different place. So I think it's awesome that you guys went through the name change, that there's I don't want to say revival necessarily, but that there is some of that kind of coming back to.
Yeah, there's a sense of revival, and like I said, it was painful and difficult, and I said before that I ain't doing this again. You got to be careful about those kind of things, because you never know what God might have in store for you. But I wouldn't intentionally want to do that again. There's feelings that were hurt. There's people that didn't agree, and one thing you learn quickly in ministry is that it's impossible to please everybody. But we have a welcoming place that is accepting and not judgmental, and I think people are feeling comfortable stepping into worship there, and I just think that's an amazing thing. And there's still I don't love writing newsletter articles, but every quarter they ask me to write a newsletter article, and I was just writing this out yesterday, that like all of these things we're talking about, and that basically that we know we're not through all of the difficulties yet. There's still things, our identity's still got to be formed in some ways, and we're still going to have some difficult conversations, and will we join a denomination at some point? Will we be community forever? So we don't know what the next chapter. We know what the chapter we're on now looks like, but we don't know what the next chapter looks like, I guess is what I'm saying.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Real cool.
It's exciting to be a part of, though.
Yeah, I would think that that would be exciting. Like, you're deeply involved in that, and you got the long-term aspect of it, to see ministry, to see people come back to the church, to see all those sort of things happen. That's eternal things, right? Like, that's not something that's going to be like, nothing on earth is going to last.
That's amazing, because being a pastor, just like lots of things in life, I'm sure being an executive director at JFA can be difficult too, but I need those reminders for myself, and just talking about them with you, it's like it's really amazing and really awesome to be a part of, because the day-to-day can be tough.
And keeping the proper perspective on day-to-day things, and in what you're doing as a man, as a father, as a pastor, as a husband, like all of that. It's like, it's easy to just get caught up into, I got to put out this fire, I got to do this thing, I got to do this thing, and not have the perspective of, like, what does the eternal look like? Am I being the right example for my kids? Am I training my kids the way they should be? Am I treating my wife the right way? All of those sort of questions that swirl around when you're like, for me, like when I'm driving to work, I don't have the radio on, like it's a 25-minute drive there and back, and it's just, I'm in quiet, and I'm just like, I got to listen, and I got to be able to be in tune to what's happening a little bit. But like, just to have those, like, that's more the eternal stuff that, like, I'm like, I really hope that my kids know that
the
one,
stuff
that I love
actually
them.
Matters.
Like keeping the things that matter are the things that matter.
Man, that's good. There's so many things in this world that don't matter. Are you focusing on the things that do matter? And what I'm hearing there, and I think that's really important for listeners to hear, is that in this busy world, it's constantly pulling at us to take some time. I love how you say that. That you do that daily. I do that too. When I'm driving to Sioux Falls for visiting angels or whatever else, to just spend some time in the quiet. And it doesn't have to be in the car either. But we're there's constantly things pulling at us. Are you taking time intentionally to just spend time in quiet? I think
quiet can make people uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely, it can. Yes.
Which is weird, like, because like for me, like,
I love it.
I don't mind it.
No, I don't either.
I mean, I like talking, don't get me wrong. I'm a big talker. But a lot of times I talk and I'm just like trying to think of what I'm going to say next, but I got to just remind myself to just pull it back. And if there's going to be 4 or 5 seconds in between what was said and what the next thing is, that's okay. It doesn't need to be filled with words necessarily.
No, it's also okay, and I think that's kind of what you're getting at. It's also okay to think about how you're going to respond. I think people feel pressured to respond right away, and a lot of times that leads us to respond out of emotion. But it's okay to take a deep breath. Or if it's a text or an email, I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be going with this thought right now, but you don't respond while you're hot or while you're emotional about it. Give it a second, sleep on it, whatever. I see it all the time. Like, why are you responding to that right now? It's an email. It's not a chat that room. Give it a little bit before you respond to that.
For sure.
It's okay to take a deep breath.
Yes, definitely take a deep breath. Definitely take some time. I've done that with emails that I'm like writing it out, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. I'll save it as a draft. I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
And then I'll either delete it or I'll make a change to it. But yeah, that's.
Do you ever come back? Because I do that too. And by the way, that's just being self-aware, and that's a great thing to be self-aware. But do you ever come back and like, oh man, I can't believe I was going to send that. I'm so glad I didn't.
Kinda.
I do all the time.
Or just let it go and be like, I'm really glad I didn't send that because this thing has now changed a little bit. Whatever the parameters of this thing was, has now changed, and now my perspective is a little bit different. So if I send that, that's what's already written out there, and I can't get that back.
That's right.
So
yeah, and I still, certainly not perfect, and I still send things sometimes that I shouldn't have. And you just kind of learn through that.
For sure.
More and more,
For sure.
It's hard to nail it all the time. So learn through looking back at those situations.
Yeah. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, I have too many times.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, I don't have any other things, I guess, that I wanted to cover. I mostly wanted to cover, kind of how you got to be in the ministry. I wanted to cover a little bit, how things are at the church and that you're leading and those sort of things. If you have anything you want to share, or?
Yeah, I guess I don't have anything necessarily planned. I'm just really grateful and thankful for you inviting me on this podcast. I'm excited for what you guys are doing and what you guys do at JFA. And thanks for having me be part of it. Check us out at The Rock anytime.
Yeah. Worship service on Carroll Street.
Worship service on Carroll Street. Facebook, The Rock Community Church.
There you go.
9:30 Sunday morning.
Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Right
God
on.
is good, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you, and best of God's wishes. Like, I want to say luck, but it's not luck.
Yeah, it's not.
There's no luck, right? But best of intentions, best of things for you to be able to, and not just you, but and your family and the congregation, be able to listen to what direction God's leading in the next chapter in the Rock. Amen. And I'm glad living in this community of Rock Rapids. I'm glad there's a place like yours, and I enjoy being a part of this community and getting to know you, and just the personality, the persona, the ability to be involved in the community and be a pastor. Like, there's that's a little tricky sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first couple of years of being a pastor, I had all this energy to do all these things, and then eventually it starts to wear on you a little bit. So it is tough to be present all the time. I can't go to the grocery store without. And I'm not. This isn't a complaint. It could be if I look at it the wrong way. It's more of a fact. Yeah. That when you have a public position, especially in a small town, people know who you are, and people are going to.
They will know who you are.
Most of the time, it's a good thing.
Sure.
But yeah, you always there's that element of always kind of having to be on. So if you're a pastor. I guess what I'm saying is, if you want a vacation, you actually have to leave Rock Rapids.
Yeah. Or if you don't pastor in Rock Rapids, you can come to Rock Rapids.
Yeah, absolutely. You can come to Rock Rapids and hang out.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Yeah, for sure. So that's good. Well, I appreciate you and our friendship, and best wishes to you. And again, there we go. Best. It's not wishes. Blessings. It's like we have all these sayings.
Blessings.
For sure.
It's all those things. But like, we're real enough to know what we're trying to get to.
For sure. Yeah.
So. Well, thanks very much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 8 with Pastor Travis Remme from the Rock Community Church here in Rock Rapids. We thank Rosie's for letting us sit in this corner and record it here today. Thank you very much, and God bless.